I never imagined that a board game could be so terrifying. It all started when my friends Daniel and Peter decided to play a board game we found in my grandfather's old basement. The board was made of dark wood and had strange figures carved into its edges. As I read the box, it said Arkham Horror. At that time, I had no idea how to play it, but my friends were super excited because they were tired of the old D&D board. Well, before continuing the story, I think it's important to describe how I met these two boys. Unfortunately, this part of the story doesn't start very happily because it was after a tragedy that I was able to find my best friends. When I turned 14, I lost my parents in a tragic car accident. That day, they were on their way home and were in a hurry to get there before a snowstorm predicted for the afternoon. Unfortunately, the road was frozen, and the car ended up sliding and flipping, taking my parents away forever. After the accident, I had to move in with my grandparents. A few months later, they decided it was time to enroll me in the school in the small town of Pine Hill. That's where I met Daniel and Peter. On my first day of school, as I walked through the schoolyard, I saw them running with a soccer ball. Suddenly, Peter kicked the ball disastrously, and it hit me in the face. Well, it wasn't the best way to meet someone, but after that, they apologized sincerely and introduced me to the whole school. Over time, we became very close friends, and we were always together, causing trouble around town. Anyway, when we opened the Arkham Horror box, we found some pieces and a manual. As we read the manual, we understood that Arkham Horror is a cooperative game, where we, as players, should take on the role of investigators trying to save the city of Arkham from monsters and evil cultists. The game had several rules that spoke about the characters, turns, and difficulty. But what intrigued me the most was the topic defeat and victory, which said, if the Ancient One is awakened, the players must defeat it in a final battle, otherwise, everyone dies. After finishing reading the manual, we started playing Arkham Horror, following the instructions to the letter. At first, everything seemed normal, but after a few minutes, the game's atmosphere began to get a little sinister. Daniel and I noticed some pieces moving on the board as if they had a life of their own. We were scared, but Peter, on the other hand, was very skeptical and thought it was part of the game, saying that the board had been created with some unknown technology. Despite feeling afraid, I decided to continue playing. It was as if we were hypnotized by the board and the mysterious atmosphere that surrounded us. Looking at my friends' faces, I realized that they too were fascinated and determined to move forward. However, something unexpected happened. A strange figure, which was not in the game, started moving on the board. It was a scary creature with shiny eyes and sharp claws, which seemed to be getting closer to the center of the board. My adrenaline shot up, and fear took over me. We were terrified and didn't know what to do in front of the strange figure that had appeared in the game. Until I remembered the instructions in the manual. It was written that if the Ancient One was awakened, it would be necessary to defeat it in a final battle to prevent everyone from dying. That was when we realized that the horrifying creature was actually the dreaded Ancient One. Terrified, Daniel tried to stop the game, but his pieces continued to move on their own, as if they were out of control. Suddenly, the lights started flashing frantically, and a strange and disturbing sound started coming from the board. At that moment, I felt a shiver down my spine, and I thought, what is that sound? What is happening here? While we tried to understand what was happening, the lights went out completely. We were silent for a few seconds until the lights suddenly returned. We looked around the basement, and to our horror, a hideous creature was standing in front of us. It was a monster with red eyes and huge teeth, which seemed to be drooling, as if it was looking for food. Fear took over us, and we didn't know what to do in that situation. The moment we tried to run, we realized we were stuck in place, as if something invisible was holding us there. The creature advanced towards us, its red eyes shining in the dark, and everything turned black. I heard my friends' desperate screams, accompanied by macabre sounds of teeth chewing flesh. until I felt a push throwing me away, and I passed out. When I woke up, I was alone in the room. There was no sign of my friends or the game. I felt a horrible pain in my body, and when I looked down, I noticed that I had lost one of my legs, and the basement was full of blood. It was a terribly frightening scene. Seconds later, my grandparents came down and were horrified by it. No one ever managed to unravel the mystery of the Arkham Horror board game. Some still think I'm crazy, but only I know what I saw that day. Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed the story. Thanks for watching and don't forget to subscribe to the channel.